All right.
Good. Concrete, chock full of minerals, but hard on your teeth.
Got that sound.
It's a great presentation. Sound design.
All right. Who can tell me the difference between cement and concrete? It's on the screen.
Concrete has minerals and stuff in it.
All the aggregate rocks and sand and all that shit is mixed in. Yeah. So cement is an ingredient of concrete. Cement is the flour as concrete is to bread. Hydraulic cement. Sometimes people will call it hydraulic cement to sound important, but that's literally like all the cement, all the concrete that people make is with hydraulic cement.
There's water in it.
Yeah, it requires dihydrogen monoxide. Yeah. So yeah, it's a chemical reaction when you add the water. The cement activates and then it basically turns into rock. There is a non-hydraulic that does not require water. It cures with carbon dioxide, but it's kind of less common. It's much less common, more resistant to chemicals, and harder to work with, more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody just uses hydraulic because that's normal. Cure time. Once you pour your concrete, and you treat it nicely, you can walk on it in a day or two. But you can't drive on it or put anything heavy. It takes a month roughly to get full strength. So there's a chemical reaction the entire time, and it'll actually feel a little bit warm sometimes. There's all kinds of factors that go into it. Moisture being one of the biggest ones. So the wind and the sun and everything will dry it out faster, which can cause problems. Yeah, heated driveways are the bomb.
Or the what?
Heated driveways.
We won't put heated driveways at the Airbnb, so we don't have to shovel. So our sidewalk and driveway would be heated.
Okay.
A lot.
Well, they're already doing it throughout the whole
What if
slab
you
of
do
the house.
solar
What's the difference?
panels with that?
True.
You could do solar. You could do solar, especially since it's open. There ain't no woods over there. There's not. Question before I forget. How do you go to the register of deeds to place liens on people's stuff?
You can walk in and say,
And just say I want to place a lien because I have this judgment against somebody? I don't know. I've never done it. You just asked me.
I would think you just go to the corporate courts and they'll tell you what to do.
Collect construction and stuff like that too. They put legal stuff.
No.
I googled it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Monty's asking his ChatGPT.
Moxie. Yeah. That's one thing I have.
So when your concrete cures too fast, there's a myriad of problems. Primarily being just strength and cracking issues. You can pour concrete in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, but you got to take extra steps to be careful. Winter is harder than summertime. Summertime you can just cover it in plastic, make sure it's staying hydrated well enough so there's adequate water to cure the concrete properly. In the winter, they have to add a bunch of additives to make it set faster, which can sometimes yield a lower strength concrete, but you can still do it. It's possible.
Ooh.
Surprise. Tension is a force that pulls outward on an object, and compression inward. Concrete sucks at tension. So if you've got a slab of concrete and it's being bent, it will deflect a little bit, but it'll more or less just snap, it'll break. Obviously on the top there, as it's bending down, that surface has tension on it and the bottom is being compressed. So it has tremendous load bearing capacity, but if you've got bolts or something that are embedded in there and they're being pulled, the tension is not great in concrete.
Fun fact. There was a guy who invented how to mix rubber into concrete.
Interesting.
And the government of Illinois,
Yes.
basically ended his company, and
It's too good. You
it
can't
was
do
too
it.
good. It doesn't
Doesn't break.
stop the taxes.
Yeah, because that's how they get you. As they come tear the roads up.
That's like
with,
Tesla
trucks.
government coming and taking
Yeah.
his shit back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
What they did.
When
Now
was
there's,
this?
now there's a hydrogen car.
Really? When was this rubber concrete thing? When did that happen?
It was like at least I was in school for civil engineering.
So
at
like
the time.
20 years ago?
Maybe more, like 25, 30 years ago, probably. Because it was my teacher knew all about it. I don't know all the details because it was 20 years ago, but
That's crazy.
and I barely paid attention in class anyway.
Yeah.
So because concrete sucks its tension, they will often add other things that are good at tension, like metal. So in this picture, you can see rebar this is actually quite a bit of rebar. So they must be worried about load on this. But what that does is strengthen the internal structure and keeps it from bending too much and pulling apart and cracking too badly. You'll probably still get a few cracks here and there, but it's not going to come apart.
Should have Brad come in today and talk about concrete.
Right?
Why?
He's a
Not that
concrete
bad.
guy.
Not that Brad.
Oh, I was
Concrete Brad.
like,
Yeah.
He's the guy who did our floors over the garage.
You will sometimes see in sidewalks some fiberglass fibers mixed in, which basically is like a mini rebar, just a 1-inch piece of rebar essentially. So it's kind of slurried into the mix, and it helps strengthen the whole thing as well. Not a super high end strength thing, but it does help with smaller pours.
Codes definitely have Bill Nye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as this relates to real estate, you will see foundations sometimes with cracks that have water leaking in. There are several products out there that work great. This is one that I've used before, and it works really well. Basically, what you'll do is smear this paste on. It's an epoxy, and cover the crack up, and then every 8 to 12 inches, you'll put these little plastic ports in there, and you'll come through with your 2-barreled caulk gun and this squiggly nozzle here. It's got little steps all the way down, zigzag back and forth, and it mixes the two pieces of the epoxy together, so that by the time it's at the end of the nozzle, it's fully mixed. And it's rather thin, depending on the size of crack, but you basically are just injecting this epoxy into the crack. So you're on the inside of the house, the outside is already backfilled, it's an older house or whatever. You're basically just filling in epoxy all the way up this crack. And then once you start at the bottom, you fill the bottom in, and as soon as the one above it starts to dribble a little bit, you cap off the bottom port, move up, and just work your way right up the wall. You're capping off as you go, and it's a pretty effective repair. There's other ways to do it. You can dig out the entire foundation on the outside of the house and seal it from the outside and put another water barrier, and it's a huge pain. Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. If you've got a driveway with big cracks in it, or your basement floor, or your garage that you want to seal up, same kind of thing. You have injectables like we just saw, or you could just get a liquid epoxy that you can just pour in there. It's easy as that. There's different thicknesses depending on how big the crack is. So if it's just a small crack, it's a very, very runny, almost like water to get down into the crack, and then it just hardens up. This one is a pretty thick one because the crack is so large. Lifespan of concrete is super long. If it's done correctly and the foundation underneath the concrete is done properly, it'll last 100+ years. Romans were using concrete in their aqueducts and different things, and they did a bunch of research, and they found that actually, because of the way that they mixed it with volcanic ash, it's self-healing, and it's actually stronger than when it was poured originally.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so as it cracks, it exposes the ash and the cement to more fresh water, and there's these little pockets, like minuscule pockets inside the concrete, and it's basically healing itself as it cracks. So yeah. So it's all still functional basically. So they had it figured out. So yeah, if it's done right, it'll last a really long time. Some cool things that are on the market are stamped concrete. I'm sure you guys have seen that. And the concrete curbs for your landscaping is really fun. This one, I like the look of that one. It looks like real stone. They did a good job. And this is a neat product too. It's permeable or pervious, means the same thing. concrete, so it's a really coarse concrete. It's not as smooth. Yeah, the water just rolls right through it. It's really kind of neat. It doesn't last nearly as long as a regular concrete slab. Concrete slab will last, 50 to 100 years. This is the 20 to 40 year product. But if you've got a lot of washout or you've got problems with standing water, it can be a really nice solution. Obviously, they're just dumping a whole truckload of water there and it's flowing right through, which is cool. So, thank you. Carry on.